Hello everyone and welcome back to Monsters of the Mind. As always, I'm your host Mr.G. Today we're talking about two gods, both of which come from two ancient Mexican cultures. We got a Mayan god and an Aztec god, so let's look into them. Today we're talking about Camazotz and Huitzilopochtli. Camazotz means death bat, and he was an individual like most gods. He was pretty malevolent, he lived in the Mayan underworld, and he comes from Mayan mythology. Camazotz is described as looking like a giant anthropomorphic vampire bat. In Mayan mythology, Camazotz was described as being the god of the night, death, and sacrifice. And unlike other death gods who were pretty morally neutral, Camazotz was always described as being a pretty evil being. Camazotz shares many similarities to the common idea of a vampire, such as the bat motif, the black coloration, only coming out at night, and drinking blood. Camazotz's most famous story is the time that twin brothers, whose names I don't really know how to pronounce, so I'll just call them H and X, were forced to spend the night in Camazotz's lair during their journey to the underworld. In order to protect themselves from him and his other bats, the twins ended up sleeping inside their own blowguns. In order to see if it was safe, H stuck his head out of his gun, at which point Camazotz tore his head off and brought it to the god's ball court to be used as a ball. Don't worry, he gets it back later on. Other than that, though, we don't really have many myths involving this guy. Meanwhile, Huitzilopochtli means blue hummingbird on the left, mostly because the Aztecs believed that when you died in battle, you got resurrected as a hummingbird. He was an individual, he was pretty morally neutral. I mean, to the Aztecs he's probably seen as a hero, but considering some of the stuff he does, I consider him neutral. He lived in the sky, and he comes from Aztec mythology. Huitzilopochtli was often depicted as a blue humanoid dressed in warrior garb, full of lots of feathers. Huitze was both the god of war and the god of the sun, so he was a very important deity. Huitz was the son of the earth goddess Coatlicue, who became pregnant with him due to an incident with a ball of hummingbird feathers. Don't ask. When Huitz was born, he was attacked by his siblings, but he quickly disposed of them. Actually, not really, because the severed heads of his brothers became the stars and his sister's head became the moon. Since then, they have been chasing Huitz in order to kill him so that no one can stop them when they try to kill Coatlicue and end the world. In order to keep Huitz going, the Aztecs would sacrifice people as sustenance for him so that he wouldn't get tired out. You know, how about we talk about some other Aztec gods? I would talk about some Mayan gods, but quite frankly, Mayan is a kind of hard mythology to research, so Aztec's easier. Let's just talk about those. First of all, we got Quetzalcoatl, the god of wind, who is usually depicted as a giant feathered serpent due to the fact that that's what his name means. I've always considered him to be kind of like the velociraptor of deities, and that a lot of people have heard of him, but his mainstream view is almost nothing like the real deal. Since he's the most well-known Aztec god, and the Aztecs are well-known for human sacrifices, most people assume he's the god people sacrifice to. However, it was said that Quetzalcoatl actually hated human sacrifice, and instead his offerings were birds, tortillas, and, butterflies. Speaking of Aztec gods and sacrifice, we have Tlaloc, the god of rain. He was one of the two Aztec gods that we have concrete proof of human sacrifices, the other being Huitzilopochtli, as I said earlier. It was believed that if people weren't sacrificed to him, then he would stop the rainfall. So in a way, he's kind of the origin of the common media trope of people sacrificing things for rain. Maybe. I don't know. He was married to another water goddess, Chalchuiclu, I think that's how it's pronounced, who was the goddess of land-based waters, such as lakes, ponds, rivers, the ocean, things like that. And she was also the goddess of childbirth. She's actually his second wife. His first wife cheated on him with the next guy we'll be talking about. And that guy is Tezcatlipoca, who is very similar to Loki of Norse mythology in that he often caused a lot of problems with other deities, most notably the fact that he caused the apocalypse 4 times. Now here's Vincent. As for Camazotz, he ended up getting locked into a cage after he got into a fight with Cerberus, and Hades got mad at him for it, so he locked Camazotz in a cage until he apologizes, but he refuses to. In fact, he's refused to apologize for the past 75 years. He says he would rather have his dignity than his freedom. Well, man definitely has his priorities, I'll give him that. And as for Huitzilopochtli, he often gets into fights with Ares, since Ares is the definition of a narcissist and thinks that he's the best war god, so he often picks fights with other war gods, despite the fact that he always loses, Always. I don't think I've ever seen him win a fight with another war god. It's kind of sad. So yeah, that's what I think. Now let's look at the cards. The main thing with this card is that it claims Kamazotz caused the apocalypse. However, after reading the Mayan creation myth, which is where it claims that the Kamazotz caused the apocalypse, I couldn't find any proof of that. The previous Mayan world's inhabitants were killed because they weren't able to pray. I found nothing about them being killed because they broke the law. So I'm wondering what their source is here. Yeah, this is another one of those citation needed cards. It also claims that during the day he's a statue. That's another thing I've never heard, and I'm wondering what their source is. Overall, I give this an 8 out of 10. For Huitzilopochtli, I'm pretty sure that if they depicted a deity from a modern religion looking like a troll face, there would be backlash. I also kind of love the opening statement of the card. No, this isn't a member of the Blue Man Group. I just find that funny. Although on the back of the card, this isn't a mythological error, but a historical one, which is weird. It shows the Aztecs killing a guy just by laying him down on a rock. Now, if you know anything about Aztecs, you know that they sacrificed people at temples. They didn't just randomly drag people out in the middle of nowhere and kill them. On the one hand, that's a historical error not really connected to him, so I don't know what to do here. You know what? No points deducted for that, since it's not really about him. You know what? I think I'm gonna have to give this card a 10 out of 10. No pop culture this time. I don't feel like researching it, so that's all for this episode of Monsters of the Mind. Join us next time when we talk about a tale of why man should not try to play God. Bye!
Ugh, there's that feeling again. What is causing this?
Meanwhile, so you say you can free me of my condition.
That's right, Nico. And I see you've already killed someone close to you, so you already meet my requirements. You just have to accept me.
Nico, stop!
Oh, it's you, Death.
Nico, do not listen to him. He will not help you at all. You'll end up in a worse position than you are now. Why should I listen to you? You are the reason that my life is so terrible. Look, just don't listen to him. Do not accept him. Nothing that he's saying is true.
Oh, please, kid. You really gonna listen to that pile of bones? Just accept me. I promise you, your life will be much more improved after you accept me.
Nico, don't do it!
You know what, Death? I think you might have a point. But I think I want to accept the gem. He seems trustworthy.
Ah! Oh! What the? Ah!
You! Surprised to see me, Grimmy boy?
Not really. I had a feeling you'd come back one day, but I just didn't expect you to will some guy so easily.
Oh, please, this guy was pathetic. Barely even a challenge to convince.
You're not going to get away with this. I am going to warn every single deity about you. They will crush you like a grape.
Interesting proposition there. And now, listen to mine. That's right. Fall asleep and never wake up. It's what you do best anyway. Good to be back. Now, I can finally take my revenge on that goody two-shoes Vincent. And when I'm done with him, I will take out the entire pantheon. No god will be spared. And when I'm done with them, I think I'll give a visit to my lovely creator, who abandoned me and sold me out. And when I'm done with him... Well, I've got plans. But before I take care of Vincent, I have some unfinished business I have to attend to.